But if they started raising rates, then what would happen? Well, the world would end in a recession. That's my guess, and I think that's what they're afraid of. So one indicator, looking forward, what is the rate environment going to be? It's going to be what it is or worse. What would get the ECB to stop raising rates, to stop trying to lower rates? Well, they run out of bonds to buy. They're already getting to that point. So there's this perverse effect, and this is happening in Japan too, that lowering rates, negative rates, doesn't seem to work. None of this stuff works as far as promoting economic growth. So what's the perverse effect? It's happening in Japan, it's happening in the EU. They're running out of bonds to buy to get rates even lower. The German 10-year is what we're looking at in the white there. Remember, there are two factors involved in markets and in economics. The substantive factor sits on economists' equations. And to that type of view, lower interest rates, even negative rates, are a plus because it balances, it fits in their equations. I'm not an economist, so I'm not criticizing economists, but it's a way of looking at the world that has limitations which are not really recognized by the current leaders of the world's central banks, and you would have to say the world's politicians as well, the world's ruling politicians. So the other effect of this regimen of low interest rates and negative interest rates is psychological. If you want economic growth, what does that mean? Does it mean that the economy is a machine where you put an input in and you get an output? Is that the way the world economy works? Is that the way any economy works? Partially. But in between, where that equal sign in the equation sits, is an individual making a decision. Not a government official, not a central bank, but an individual in charge of a business. Jobs are not produced by government. Yes, government can hire people, but the economy runs on the private side. At that equation, at that equal sign, at that juncture between the input and the output, between the interest rate and the effect on the economy, sits an individual making a decision about whether to open a business, whether to expand their own business, whether to hire more people, and what do many business people use? Are they tenured academic economists? So they plug in their equations and say, hey, central bank has got lower rates, they're paying us to borrow money. Let's go out and do something. Or, and I know quite a few business people, both on the corporate side and on the small business side and the medium business side, relatives, friends. It's a widespread acquaintance of mine. I've been interested in this for a long time. No means statistical, but the decisions are based on two things. Well, more than two things, but two that I'm going to mention right now. One is the sense of the actual business that their company is engaged in and what the demand is and where they think it's going to grow. And the second is far harder, especially on the small business, the private business side rather than the corporate side. And that is some sort of intuition about what's going on. And this is where negative rates and low rates provide a negative input that does not fit into the economist's equations. It is impossible to believe, if you're a businessman or a commentator like myself, looking at interest rates around the world and where they keep headed, that this is a sign of success and a vote for future growth. It is only a sign of concern and weakness. And if that is your economic background, then the idea of you're going to err on the conservative side when it comes to what you're going to do. So I've had a long had the view that the interest rate policies being followed by the central banks have their own negative factors which are inhibiting the results that they want.